In this video I'm going to demonstrate how to program CVs on an Intermountain GP10 Paducah rebuild locomotive using the Digitrax DT402 hand throttle. Ordinarily I program all of my decoders with my JMRI software, but I've been running into some issues and I've been doing some troubleshooting and reading about it on the internet. Apparently using JMRI with a dedicated programming track doesn't have enough power to adequately program the new ESU LokSound Full Throttle decoders nor the Tsunami 2 decoders. So I need to, and what I've done is I've actually hooked my programming track back up to my command station, so I've been doing a lot of my programming with my hand throttle. So currently I have locomotive number 8173 sitting on the actual one of my yard spurs, but it's part of the layout. So the default address for all Intermountain GP10 locomotives is default address of 3, and you can see that that's active on my left throttle knob. So I'm going to go ahead and apply track power. And just verify that this is decoder number 3. So with the Intermountain GP10s, you do have to hit F8 to initiate the startup sequence. During the startup sequence, the locomotive will not move, so if you apply throttle to it, it won't move until the startup sequence is complete. So you can see I'll try to give it some throttle. It just sits. So right now this locomotive is programmed to default address number 3. So I've gone ahead and moved my locomotive over onto my programming track, which on my layout actually serves as a caboose track when I'm not programming locomotives. So what I'm going to do is initially I'm going to change the default address of 3 to 8173, which is the road number for this locomotive. So on your hand throttle, you're going to push the program key, and it'll come up as 82, which is a 2-digit address. I want to change this to a 4-digit address, so I'm going to push the right button on my hand throttle, and it actually now changes that to address number 4. From there it's very simple. I'm going to type in the number that I want to program the address to, so 8173. I'm going to hit the enter button, and then it says address for on Y equals yes. I'm going to hit the yes button. Whoops, I didn't do it fast enough, so I'm going to have to do it again. So change that back to 8173, hit enter, address for on yes, and then to get out of programming mode, we're going to hit exit on the throttle. So now I've moved the locomotive back out onto the layout, and I'm going to enter the new address that I just programmed. So I'm going to hit the loco key, 8173, hit enter, apply track power. You can hear the locomotive spitting a little bit, so until you actually hit the startup sequence, it makes the compressor noise. So I'm going to hit F8 to initiate startup. So again, you can see 8173 is active. To just prove that, F0 turns on the headlight. F3 is the gyro light, F5 number boards. So I've successfully reprogrammed this locomotive. So I've muted the locomotive, and I want to demonstrate something. With the Intermountain GP10s, in the non-sound mode, I'm going to apply a little bit of power here. Listen very carefully, and you can hear there's sort of a hum or a buzz when the engine is actually in motion. Hopefully you could hear that hum or buzz when the locomotive was going or moving. Intermountain has instructions for changing a CV to help reduce the hum when the motor of inside the locomotive is actually working. That CV address is 124. We're going to change that, and I'll show you that here in just a second. Earlier in my video I showed you that there's a delay where the locomotive will not move or it will not respond to any throttle commands while it's in startup sequence. When you're changing CV124, you can actually disable that delay on startup. So if you set CV124 to value 0, it will reduce the motor hum, and it also disables that startup delay, so you can actually move the locomotive while it's in the startup sequence. If you change CV124 to value 4, it reduces the motor hum, but it keeps that that delay when the locomotive is starting up engaged. So I'll show you that here right now. So again, I'm going to go back into programming mode by hitting the program button. So I need address number 124, so I'm going to take my left throttle and just turn it until we get to value 124. And then with my right throttle, you can see there's question marks over here for the address. I want to keep that startup delay enabled, so I'm going to set this to value 4. Now I'll hit enter. It says good, so we're done with this. I'm going to go ahead and hit exit to exit out. Okay, so I've moved the locomotive back out onto the layout here. I'm going to give it some throttle, and I want you to listen that the noise, the hum, is actually reduced. So if you can hear through the video, there still is some noise, but it's not nearly as loud as it was before setting CV124 to value number 4. You can look at the decoder manual that comes with your locomotives to see what CVs control what functions, and you can certainly change it to modify your locomotive. The last thing that I will show you, and I'm not going to execute, is I'll show you how to do a complete decoder reset to restore everything back to the default factory settings. So again, we're going to hit the program button. It's going to bring up the last program, or the last CV that I programmed is 124. I'm going to change this to 8. And it's very important that to reset the decoder, you go to CV8, and you're going to change this to actually number 8. Make sure there's no leading zeros, because it will not reset the decoder if you typed in 008. You have to use the hand throttle and make sure it's at value number 8. I'm not going to do this, but if you were going to execute it, we're just going to hit enter. It would reset the decoder. You'd have to go back to locomotive address number 3 to run the locomotive. So I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this so I don't do it. If you have any questions about programming locomotives using the DT402 hand throttle, please make a comment and I'll do my best to answer it. Thank you.